Good evening, everyone. I will call to order the 2025 annual retreat of the Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners. I'd like to welcome everyone that is watching on video today. Welcome everyone here that's in the audience. We appreciate you being here and taking the time to be involved in this process. As I said, this is our annual retreat. We will be meeting today. For those that are watching, this setup's a little bit different than our typical commissioner meeting. This is, as I said, our retreat, and we will be meeting today until roughly 8 or 9 o'clock this evening, depending on how long we go. And then we will be back here tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. and go until the afternoon. So if you're watching and you'd like to tune back in, you're welcome to. Anyone that's here in the audience, you're welcome to come back as well. So I guess we will get started on our first item, and that will be the employee survey. And we have, I'll turn it over to Kelly to introduce who we have here for that.
So Ashley is going to come up and she's going to introduce Leisha DeHart Davis from the School of Government, and they actually did our employee survey, and they're going to share the results with you.
Can she go up there? Will they be able to hear her?
I think it'd be
Just for the microphone. Okay.
Good evening, Commissioners. Is it Zoom again? Oh, it is on, okay. Good evening, Commissioners. For those of you I haven't had the opportunity to meet yet, my name is Ashley Dobbins. I'm the Interim Human Resources Director. Thank you for allowing us to kick off your retreat this weekend by having the opportunity to share our employees' voices through the UNC School of Government Employee Survey. Over the last year, we had the opportunity to share research and proposals related to our compensation and benefits program. We are so grateful for your consideration on items that had low scores on past surveys. We also worked behind the scenes on items like communications. Because of your commitment to our employees, we can happily report increased satisfaction in these and many other areas, as Leisha will be sharing with you this evening. We know that you have to make very difficult budget decisions this year, and we hope that this information will be helpful to you as you work through those. I'm very happy to introduce Leisha DeHart Davis. I have provided, I forgot to provide the summary. I'll bring you a biography and pass that out. Leisha is a graduate of the University of South Carolina and earned her PhD at Georgia Tech. She is a professor of public administration and government with the UNC School of Government and the director of local government workplace initiatives. Her research focuses on public sector organizational behavior, employee voice, organizational structure, and citizen and workplace incivility. As the Director of Local Government Workplaces Initiative, she leads research that includes conducting workplace climate and employee engagement research to help local governments like us create great workplaces. Leisha, thank you for being here, and I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. Let's see. I am on. Okay. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and to tell you all about the results of the survey. We conducted. Uh-oh, it's not advancing. Oh, thank you. I had to turn it on. Okay.
You might just need a minute. We get to be the first ones.
Don't worry about it, it's my fault.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. So I'll tell you really quickly about the Workplaces Initiative at the School of Government. I want to talk about trends across North Carolina local government because I think that's something that's good for commissioners to know. Talk really quickly about the results of the 2024 survey as well as response rates. And then we'll talk about the top 10 improvements that you all saw between 2022 and 2024, and then take any questions that you have. So we're a program at the School of Government, And our mission is to help local governments create great workplaces by listening to employees and then acting on that feedback. So we offer a wide range of services. We've done this work with over 40 local government organizations, and we've talked to or surveyed over 20,000 local government employees. So we have quite a bit of data. The trends across local government, right now you're seeing a lot of work being done in terms of pay and benefits. There was a recent report released by the League of Municipalities and the Association of County Commissioners that says that 87% of the survey participants to a survey that they had distributed are planning on pay and benefit increases in 2025 to remain competitive. And just to give you an idea of our partners, these are the partners that we have that have also adjusted pay and benefits: Guilford County, Catawba, Concord, and then Thomasville. And so this is a major theme right now in North Carolina local government. Kind of related, you wouldn't necessarily think it's related, but we're seeing a lot of burnout. We have been for a few years now, particularly with the pandemic, where employees are just exhausted. And part of that had to do with just such a shift in what local government employees had to do during the pandemic, particularly with less. We're also seeing a lot of citizen incivility, and that's very concerning because in our data, citizen incivility is strongly related to burnout. So, and what I mean by citizen incivility is that's when community members are being not just rude and not just disrespectful, but in some cases threatening local government employees. It can be, physical threat, kind of emotional, mental intimidation. And so that's a area that actually we're working on at the School of Government to give local governments some tools to equip, managers to help employees when they encounter citizen incivility. So this is just an overview of what we're seeing across local government. So the 2024 survey, you all had an 87% response rate. That is staggering. That is remarkable for an organization the size of Cabarrus County. We did the survey last 2 weeks in October. All departments participated. And what you can see on that right, that very colorful graph, it's kind of hard to see, but that's the list of everything that Cabarrus County actually did in response to the 2022 results. So long list of things. And what you'll see, these are the response rates. So you get an 87% response rate. You'll see the response rates by department here. I want to call your attention just to a couple of things. County Sheriff, there was an 87% response rate. That is unheard of. I have never said, I don't know what happened there. Oh, thank you.
Sorry.
I have never seen a sheriff's department have an 87% response rate. Typically, we don't have that high of a response rate in sheriffs because, of course, sheriffs are elected in North Carolina. The same for, let's see, fire. Looks like fire had a 100% response rate. Let's see, also, I think their EMS was on here somewhere. Yeah, the EMS is broken down, but you can also see very high response rates overall from EMS. So you should be really proud of this because response rates to an employee survey are in and of themselves a measure of engagement of employees. So that's really, really quite good news for Cabarrus County. What you're looking at here, this says 2025, it's actually 2024. These are the results broken down into 3 categories. So they're highlights, which are categories of questions which the results were really good. You've got hot spots where the results, you would like to see some improvement in those areas. And then mixed results where you had some positive and some negative. And I want you to notice that there is a long list of highlights here. And then the hot spots that you'll see, so if you're looking at things like, citizen incivility, which I mentioned is very common, emotional exhaustion, that's the burnout that I was talking about. Silence, that's when employees have something to, like they have an idea for improvement or they have a concern to raise and they make the deliberate decision not to speak up. And that's not a good thing. So silence is a hot spot. as is top-down decision-making. Now, let me explain what that means. Top-down decision-making is not just, because we live in a hierarchy, right? You're going to have decisions made from the top down. What that means is when small decisions are being made at levels that should be made at a lower level of the organization. And the thing to know about these 4 hotspots is that they are very common in local government. The thing to notice about the mixed results, you'll see some numbers right here. So you'll see commitment, 3 out of 4. What that means is that we asked 4 questions related to commitment, and 3 of those 4 questions were good or excellent. Just 1 showed a need for room for improvement. And if you look at these numbers here, you're going to see that they're pretty close to, like commitment, the results were 1 survey question away from being a highlight. Same thing with psychological safety. Psychological safety means that people are comfortable showing up in their own skin. They're not scared of being ostracized by something that they say. They can be forgiven for errors and adjust and develop from those. So the things to know about this list of mixed results is they're really almost, highlights. So that's very encouraging and that's very positive. On the highlight side, I'm going to call your attention to a few things. Workplace incivility. See workplace incivility in the bottom? That actually tends to show up if it's not a hot spot in most local governments, it's a mixed result. And so that's good. Workplace incivility means that people are behaving disrespectfully towards each other in the workplace. And the fact that that's a highlight for Cabarrus County is a very good result. And that aligns with respect in the workplace. Communications, you're going to see some information, comparative data from 2022 on communications. That's a good one because a lot of times communications shows up for local governments as being a mixed result at a minimum. So very good results. You all should be very pleased about these.
Do you, sorry to interrupt you, but is it common for you to see respect in the workplace, inclusion and rules as a highlight, but then silence as a hot spot?
Yes, and the reason for that, well, let's go back here. That's a great question. So you're going to see, for example, you see silence. Hold on. Okay, so silence is a hot spot, and then you've got voice. That's really the most similar concept on here. Voice is when people feel like they had the opportunity to speak up. So you may say, well, why is voice a mixed result? And then silence is a hot spot. The reason for that is sometimes you can make opportunities available for employees to speak up, and for a lot of reasons they decide not to. They may think they may be retaliated against, or they may feel like that they've spoken up so much and that they're not getting anywhere with it. So that's one kind of seeming contradiction. But the other thing that you were pointing out, you were saying, is it common to see inclusion and workplace incivility as highlights, but to also see silence as a hot spot?
Well, inclusion and respect of the workplace.
Uh-huh.
Because in my mind, if you have both respect and inclusion, then you should be able to say what it is that you need to say. That's why, to me, that was a little odd.
Okay, so what inclusion is about, it's within your work group, are you accepted? Do you feel a sense of belonging? And it could be that the silence and to a certain extent the voice are coming from, a fear of speaking up to managers. Inclusion is really about your work group. Do you fit in with your people? Respect in the workplace is whether managers treat employees fairly regardless of their demographic category. So, any other questions about this before?
There it goes. I was just sitting here thinking that, about the silence thing. And comment I'd like to make is that silence helps nothing. Obviously, we need to be respectful to each other and all, but I want the employees here to know, and I have kind of a reputation, so they may not want to believe this, but you can talk to me. I'm a pastor. You can talk to me. We may not agree, but the only person I know that you better agree with everything he says is Jesus, and I'm not he. I work for him, but I am not Jesus. And so you can tell me problems you have or disagreements, and we try to work it out. I don't tolerate being yelled at, but I can tolerate people expressing a concern to me. So I think we all ought to be that way, and I just want the employees to know they can talk to me if they need to.
Okay, so this is just hitting the highlights, long list of highlights. Your hot spots are very common in local government, and your mixed results are also positive. So that's kind of the take home from those results. Okay, now, top 10 changes, and these are keep in mind, this is the top 10 changes. I want to say there were 22 improvements from 2022 to 2024. And so if you look here, you're going to see really large changes in communications from the county manager, communications from the department head, communications from the supervisor. And you can see on the right, those numbers mean the percent change in the average score. So that might be a score going from some, on average, people saying that they were neutral in response to a set of questions to saying that they agree. So these are very positive results. You can see satisfaction with pay went up by, about 25%. Incivility went down. Satisfaction, let's say, with health insurance went up. Burnout went down. Even though burnout is still a hot spot, it still went down. So there was improvement in that area. And then you can read the rest of these. But these are very good. 22 improvements, and these are some very good areas for improvement. So, and I think that these can be tied. I mean, it could be a lot of things going on, but Cabarrus County did a lot of things to address these issues since 2022. And inevitably, a lot of these changes are going to be due to that. Ashley, I don't know if you want to talk about any of the changes or any of the things that Cabarrus County did.
Well, a lot of what we did was related to, of course, the benefits that you guys helped us with last year and the pay. So that was a big piece of it. But then additionally, we've done things like focus groups and just gone out, talked to our employees, learned about what their needs are, and tried to work through ways just to make small incremental changes within departments and that kind of thing. So we did add a few different communication methods. So we'll thank communications for that, just getting information to our employees in different ways. So those are some of I would say, the biggest things that we were able to do last year.
So, so overall, I mean, your survey results showed measurable progress. And I do believe that this is in response to the wide range of efforts that Cabarrus County employed in response to that 2022 survey. The worst thing a local government can do is do a survey and not do anything. And that does happen. And when that happens, employees are much less likely to respond to that survey again in the future. So I think you all have a lot to be really proud of.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what questions do you have? Any other questions?
I know we did a lot that cost money, but we also did a lot that did not
Yes.
cost money. The floating holiday that they,
Yes.
we worked really hard to put the employees first when we did the last strategic planning. Is there a way that we can get how much it did cost for us to get to where we're at? How much all of that stuff that we implemented, is there a way to find out how much that cost us? Because numbers don't lie, it obviously worked. I saw even here, I am thinking about leaving this organization, went down 9.3%. So just out of curiosity, how much, I'm just curious how much
That's
it
something we
cost
can
us
certainly
to-
work on.
to get there.
We can work on that.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
Thank
Mr.
you for
Chairman,
your
I'm-
time.
Excuse me.
You've got one?
Took me a while to push the button.
Oh,
That does make me a little curious. Down 9.3%. I wonder what the level was before it went down 9.3%.
I can give that figure to Ashley.
Okay, because that could be greater, it could mean we have a lot more work to do, Okay.
Thank you.
thank you.
Next item on our agenda is the community survey, and we have Kasha Thompson.
sometimes I can't see that far, so I've got to have my blown up version right here for me. All right, hello, and thank you very much for your time. I wanted to kind of counter what you just heard in the employee survey with what we've heard from the community, in particular, community findings related to customer service. So after we review the data, I'll also share some information about our community survey process. But I want to start by celebrating the focus that our team places on customer service. It truly is what sets us apart. When our vendors come and talk to us about the community survey, they always point out that this is a highlight, not just for Cabarrus County, but across the nation. Our employees do their very best to provide top-level service, and we know this because every 2 years we've sent out a survey to the community asking them to provide feedback on this and other topics. All right, so what you see here are customer service questions from surveys that were sent in 2014, 16, 18, and 21. Hopefully you have a blown-up version at your desk. If not, we can also send you this information separately. I'll add to the conversation data from the 2022 survey, which was presented in 23. It was not included in these fancy charts that we had made at that time. So when presenting in 2023, our survey administrators made note of the high scores related to customer interactions with the county, including grading significantly above the national average. So let's start with the first data point. Accuracy of information and assistance given. When folks call, we want to make sure they're getting the right information and to the right folks. In 2022, it was 78% were very satisfied or satisfied. Oftentimes, when reviewing survey information, you'll kind of look at the top two scores and figure that's the top of the mark. Next, we have how easy staff were to contact. We've made a point of including department head information on every page of the, every section of the website, and we try to make folks accessible, if not to a direct person, to a direct email address or phone number, because sometimes the folks change and we don't want that to interrupt services. What you see here are added to the information you see there is 72% very satisfied or satisfied in 2022. How quickly staff responded to residents. In 2022, that was 75% that were very satisfied or satisfied. As you see, those rankings are improving over time as well. If you look through the different slides, you'll notice that the rankings go up. There was a bit of a downslide after COVID, as would be expected. And then we have how well was your issue handled? In 2022, 73% of survey respondents were very satisfied or satisfied with the way their issue was handled. Not included in the trend data was the, let's see here, respect and professionalism of the interaction, which was 83% of folks were very satisfied or satisfied. That was a new question we asked in 2022. So as we end the discussion on customer satisfaction, I want you to know that we're always trying to do more. We're not okay with these numbers, and we always want to do a little better. Customer service is included in our employee orientation process. It's part of our employee annual review process as well. It's within our strategy work. There's been work being done to standardize customer service across the organization and make sure that you have a consistent brand experience no matter which department you reach out to. We want to ensure that we're delivering services to levels expected by the mandates we're given. Sometimes there's federal and state mandates that require a certain level of customer service, and we want to make sure we hit those. We're communicating across the organization to answer questions quickly and accurately. That means you may go into veteran services and end up having questions about something within the tax office. And we want to make sure that the folks get connected without having to make those connections on their own. So we're working on pathways to make that happen. We want to ensure that folks who come in for one question are guided to all the services. So you come into Veteran Services and ask about that. And folks on the team are able to say, are you interested in these 10 other things you may qualify for? Because as good as it is to promote services, I think if we really focus on getting the people that are walking through our door in all the places they need to go, if we really concentrate our efforts on that, we'll make best use of our time and the time of the people who are coming to see us and get them better connected. And of course, we're looking for ways to take advantage of having buildings across the county and technology that supports flexibility and offering services beyond Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So we're looking at all of that through the strategic plan, and you'll have more information on that as that moves forward. But when it comes to customer service, there's a lot to be proud of within our organization, and our staff are definitely all in on this. So now I will move forward. I will pause and see if you have any questions about this. It's pretty straightforward, as long as you can read it.
I should probably know this, but do we do a monthly customer service award for our employees that are nominated?
We don't.
Can I ask why not?
It's just not been part of our process so far.
Because it's something that's fairly, I was a part of that from an organization I came from. It's fairly cheap thing that you can provide some sort of gift card, but also if we can bring them in front of the commissioners and acknowledge them, it always promotes some healthy competition within the departments to improve that score. So, just a
We have
thought.
not traditionally done it. We did, as part of the strategic work that we've been doing, we did talk about different types of recognitions for employees. We do use the Super C around here, so any employee can give any other employee a Super C. And what's interesting about it is it tends to go across departments more than you would think, where, somebody in a different department helped one of us do something and people recognize them. You would expect that it happens amongst your coworkers, but this happens more across the organization. So I guess, it's kind of the equivalent. We don't have necessarily one superstar in the deal, though. It's whoever got recognized during that period.
Can you explain that, the Super C? I know, at the board level, we're not involved in that, and I'm sure there's not been much exposure at all. So can you explain that process?
So on our website, on our intranet for the employees, we have a location where we can go in, and we have little cute names for the different type ones, Captain Marvel and Green Lantern and some other things, Hawkeye, I think. So depending on what super skill they brought to the table for that particular situation, we recognize them there. And they get a pin for that. We also do put that, you can publish it so everybody else can see that person's been recognized. And we can even recognize work anniversary dates on there, which people do sometimes if they happen to see that that's their anniversary date. But so everybody can see it. A notice goes to the supervisor of that person so that they can see that that employee got recognized. So it can be used in their evaluation, that somebody got 5 Super Cs in a year, so just different ways. And it's uplifting to the employees to see that, their coworkers recognize their work.
They get a pin?
Yeah, we get a little.
We are motivated by flair.
Yeah. Well, I've seen them around, and that's
Yes.
why.
And if you get 5 of those, you can trade it in for a bronze.
We have bronze, silver, and gold. We started this actually back during COVID, where we were all working in all kinds of different platforms and new things, and we were all unsure of how our work was, coming together, but we had the ability to encourage each other. Even though we were closed for a little while, we still had the ability to thank you so much for helping me with that project or this new thing that I learned or whatever. So that's kind of how it started. And then people really got into it. And so it was an incentive for people to keep doing things, collaborating, working together. And so then we had to create the other levels of once people were getting 20, we were like, uh-oh, what do we do now? So we created the bronze, the silver, and the gold level. And so people have the ability to continue to grow.
And within the strategic plan, we do have a section that aligns the Super C process with our values. There's talk about HR looking at our annual review process and aligning that with our values. And then also we are looking at an Employee of the Year process. So customer service could be woven into that as well.
And so Todd has brought up our page where you can see our friends who have gotten Super Cs recently. And you have, see there's a button there as well to send a Super CabCo if you want to. And so it's, honestly, I am very flattered by those because recognition from your coworkers is probably the highest recognition you can get. So most people really enjoy that. But we're open to a customer service award.
Or if we can at least get a list of them, because it's done monthly, is that Super C done monthly?
Super C can happen anytime, any day. You can just go online, as Todd is showing right now. It's aligned with those 4 characteristics. You select a person and you select a recognition, and then you can add a line about the specific instance that you would like to celebrate.
Maybe at some point we can have a discussion about reading those names at our meeting. Sure. If it's that, I mean, it's important to the employees, we should be proud of that.
Does it also send the employee a certificate? I feel like I've seen that before.
They get an email, and so does their supervisor knows that they received it as well.
It'd be good for us to get a monthly update of who's been, who has
We can do that. The
received a Super C.
So sorry.
Yeah.
The process when we put them in place was so that the person would know, their supervisor would know. Then monthly, we give the pins out at department head meetings, so then their department heads kind of recognized by
Okay.
however many
That's
they get.
fantastic.
And then also, when we first started out, we put that list out to the board as a report. And so
Okay.
that list was within that. We kind of have stopped doing that just because there were so many, but we can absolutely. Sure.
We can provide that monthly.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions for? Okay, we can move on to the next presentation you have.
All right, and so part 2 is about the community survey. And there it is, that. 2 more, I think. All right. So this is a scientific survey that we've done typically every 2 years. We've stretched it out a little bit or pulled it back based on budget or timing or pandemics and the such. So we've used ETC Institute. They provide excellent service. They've added on to our contract without extra fees, and they've kept their rates fairly consistent over the years. So as you can see, they're very experienced across the country, which the benefit to that is when we do benchmark data, we have more folks to compare ourselves against. And by sticking with the same company, you have better longitudinal data because it's usually a survey that's proprietary of the group. One of the things I love about Cabarrus County is that our people have always had an interest in the work we do at the local government level. In fact, the survey company is always blown away by how quickly Cabarrus County residents respond. I think the last survey, there was typically 2 to 3 weeks to get the surveys in. We needed 400 returned to get a scientifically valid sample, and we had 465 that were returned that quickly. And these are very detailed surveys that take a lot of time. So we really, really appreciate the time that folks put into doing it. We've used the survey to understand what works and what may not work for our residents, to monitor trends so we can make good decisions, and to see how we're doing compared to other jurisdictions. So the methodology of the survey, we've used ETC Institute several times. As you can see at the last survey, it was the 7th one conducted by them. It's a 6-page survey, which is very involved. We've had longer and we've had shorter. That just happens to be how much information we wanted to collect last time. Let's see, it's sent by mail to a random sample of households in the county. So they sent out 2,000 surveys last time in hopes to get 400 back. And I am not a statistician. I'm not exactly well-versed on the math behind how that works, but if you talk to a statistician, I'm sure they would back that up and share why that's a representative sample. We make sure that it represents the community we live in, both demographically and geographically. Let's see. So the location of the survey. The survey is representative of the entire area we serve, that whole, I believe, 360 square miles of the county. Some of our municipalities also do their own surveys, and that is to look at folks within their own city limits. Any change to the physical location of the survey impacts all the dynamic composition work that goes into the statistics. So if, let's say, Concord, which I know does the survey, did their own, then their numbers would be different. Their demographic makeup would look different than ours. It's because we're covering the entire area. Okay, and I wanted to show you this slide on community need from the last survey. So I think this is the most interesting data we collected. We developed this list of services that were somehow either directly or indirectly connected with ways that we support our community. And we asked folks, do you have a need for this service? Of the folks who said yes, they have a need for these services, the dark blue indicates their ability to fully meet that need with existing resources. That means they're okay, they have this need, but they're able to meet it. Everything you see in light blue and red shows either a limited ability or an inability for our community members to fulfill this need within their household with the resources available in our community. And I just want to make a note, based on the timing of the survey, it was in late 2022. There were still federal COVID-19 recovery funds available in our community, which have just started ending in the last few months. So I do anticipate this will look very different based on that and the economic changes that we've had in our country over the last few years. But I think this is important information for you to have and consider. It's slightly outdated based on the date, but this is the type of information we can get and work with through the survey. So survey considerations. The last survey was the end of 2022. It was presented in January of 2023. We use the surveys for decision-making, strategic planning, departmental guidance, reporting, and transparency. Sometimes we have grants that need specific data. We're able to include that question in the survey so that those folks are set. There have been times when the Board of Commissioners had specific things they wanted to know our community's opinions on, and we're able to include it in there. Also, we have sometimes when we have partnerships, like with the Parks Master Plan work that's happened over the last year, Active Living and Parks did their own survey. It was separate from this, but ETC actually was the company that the master plan vendor selected for that process. So you will see a survey pop up every now and then, but it's not necessarily what we're aiming to do here. The current budget, FY25, includes $30,000 for the next survey. It has not cost us to that extent in the past. We just did it based on, expected inflation and whatnot. So one of the things I'm here to discuss or to put into your minds for a future discussion is the direction on support, timing, and expectations of a new survey, if we do a new survey. A project timeline for this is 2 to 3 months, developing the questions, sorting all of that out, signing the contracts, sending the letters, getting response, and then getting them back to do a presentation, probably closer to 3 months if we're starting from scratch with the questions. And I also wanted to share that we listened in the 2022 survey presentation. We had a lot of questions around the statistical significance of countywide versus municipal participation. Our survey administrators said that a larger sample size is possible, but it does come with an increase of cost. So if we wanted to include more people from jurisdictions, we absolutely can. We just have to be aware that it would probably come with a cost because you're also increasing the number of folks who do it in other areas, much like our funding of the schools. If we do something for Kannapolis, we have to do it for Cabarrus and vice versa. So it's kind of the same concept there, but it's possible. Also, survey response. We want to get as many folks as possible to take the survey, and we heard you when you said, how can we make sure more people are able to get a voice in this? We want to find creative ways to encourage participation. It's a randomly selected group, so it's hard because you can't do an all call because not everybody received the yellow envelope or whatever color it happens to be that year. But you want to encourage the folks who did get it to take it. So one way we could do that is through survey length. So really balancing knowledge gain versus time investment. We know folks want to do it. Maybe it's a longer response time to give folks a little more time to get their responses back, as busy as we all are, and some more targeted outreach. The survey company will do phone calls and additional mailers and whatnot if we want to. But again, that is extending the timeline for that. But all considerations we can work through. So the opportunities that I was able to think of, you may have some other suggestions we can add to this list. The first is, if it's in the board's interest to not pursue the survey this year, we could always move it to another time. If you are interested in doing it in the future, I would recommend we do it in an off-election year. The survey, we were supposed to send it out in November of this year, and that would have been a very interesting survey. So really considering the time and placement of a survey, do you want it to inform the budget process, or is there a pre-budgeting process you want to inform? Are all considerations to make. Administer the community survey this fiscal year using a format similar to past versions. That's the kind of thick packet that folks submit. It's got administrative questions. How are we doing on administrative level, quality of life? You see all the other areas that are marked there. It also, because it's so broad with its questioning, lets us benchmark against other counties and municipalities. Let's see, it measures the direct and indirect things we have control over. So it's not just things we have control over, but much like need, there are some areas where we provide support, but it's not necessarily our direct responsibility. So that's something else to consider. And then a third option would be to do the survey this fiscal year using a shorter survey focused on the areas that we have control over in county government. We might want to also look at resident needs, continue doing a question along those lines, but focus on the needs that the county can address directly. Focusing on customer service, because we want to make sure folks are getting taken care of. Possibly motivate participation by having this shorter survey and possibly increasing the number of responses we aim to get. Maybe if it's a shorter survey, we can get a few more responses. I think we could possibly do some negotiations. And then the fourth option would be explore ongoing non-scientific surveys and feedback loops. I would say whatever option you select, we are moving forward and working on those through the strategic plan. Right now, there is a beta version of a website survey that's on there. If you've popped onto our website, you might get a little pop-up that comes up and asks you questions about your experience or your intent on the website. That's something we're trying out, and we don't have data quite yet on that because it's so new. Engagement HQ is a software we rolled out last year with the budget process. It allows folks to review information and participate in discussions or surveys, pop-up surveys on the site, kind of give us a feel for what direction you want to go. We had more than 1,600 people, I think, go onto that site last year. Nobody has given us feedback on any of the questions that were up there. So quite honestly, once we didn't get feedback a few times, we didn't maintain that. But something to note is that folks do have to register and provide some information. So it's not an anonymous feedback mechanism. But we're going to work on that in the next year or during this year. Service ratings, as Commissioner Wortman mentioned, getting direct feedback quickly from customers is something that the strategy is working on. Secret shopper It's something that was really interesting for employees. The employees thought of coming up with secret shoppers to secret shop our various departments. So that was a cool way of looking at it. I think they were also looking at it as an employee going to another department, asking questions that you might not. It helps you understand what's happening, and it lets you monitor folks to make sure we're delivering consistent services. And then we have things like focus groups we could do. We could always bring together a group of individuals and ask them about their experiences with the county. So those are just some ideas that are coming out of the strategy, but all some neat things to consider as we move forward. So with that, I don't know if we need any concrete answers today, but if you want to move forward, we would need to get working on contracts and whatnot. I'm sure you'll want input from the county manager as well, so.
Yay, all right. Thank you for the presentation. So a couple questions with the survey. So I know you said it was random. I'm going to tell you, in all honesty, if I get stuff like that in my mailbox, I'm chunking it, truthfully. And so I'm just wondering, the responses that you guys did get back, was there like an age range for that? Are they mostly, like, or how do you know who these people are? Like, do they even use our services to be able to respond in a way that would be helpful for you guys to get that information?
I'm sure something you all experience, that we experience, is a lot of confusion between city, county, state, and federal services. To the taxpayer, it's government services. So I think it's very hard for them to distinguish between a county park and a city park, or who they need to go to for a certain level of service. I do not disagree, and I don't think anybody in this room would disagree. It's very hard to assume that people know exactly what program you're talking about. So I would say that is with the best intention, right? We try to write the questions as narrowly as possible to encourage that. We do have demographic data on who participates, and I'm happy to share that. And our survey results are posted on the website. You can go to, actually, if you go to cabarruscounty.us and type community survey in the search bar, it should pop up as a choice. I had it on the questions. And then also, if folks go to the January 3rd, 2023 Board of Commissioners meeting, you can watch the full presentation from the last survey, where our survey administrators answer a lot of questions. So the data is available to both you and the general public. But yeah, folks that have time to do it do, and I'm curious who would participate in a survey these days. I know I get the Nielsen things, and they include dollar bills, and sometimes it's not even enough to motivate participation in something like that, so.
Yeah. And I mean, at the same token, though, with these opportunities, I do think, the secret shopper thing, that's a great idea. And I definitely think website surveys, I think that it just gives people more of an opportunity. And the mail surveys are just, in my mind, it's just a little outdated, that most people are probably not going to respond back to that. At least maybe a certain generation would maybe respond back to that, but then the rest probably would not. But that's just my thoughts on it.
Go ahead.
There. You have to be firm with this thing. You did raise something in your discussion that I don't know what we can do about it. Maybe it's something we should think about how we address it. Is that I do get complaints from people about stuff that the city has done. They think we did it. And how do we get people to understand what's city and what's county? I mean, if you're going to complain to the right person,
You just explained our life's work.
Yeah. So how we can get that out to people? This is not us, this is, that sort of thing.
And, I'm
I was going
sorry.
to say, Kasha actually worked on this for me recently, a chart, yes, that generally described who was doing what, that we were going to use for educational purposes in Government 101, provide to different groups, that civic groups or whatever that might do that kind of work, provide that to them so that they could educate their members with that. It's still a little bit difficult at times because sometimes in some jurisdictions, there are duplication of services. But we did bite that off and try to get that provided to some groups so that we could hopefully educate in that manner. And, people participating in Government 101 here or Government 101 in the cities are getting that as well, because whether you're getting it from them or you're getting it from us, because they get the same thing too. People go to them and complain about things that we've done. We try to help each other with that, but it is a very difficult situation because most people don't catch the difference.
Another thing we're doing through the survey is working on small business support. So we want to make it where we never get in the way of a business trying to operate. So regardless of the fact if they're trying to call for the city or the county, we want to welcome them and get them where they need to go. So that's another thing that we're working on internally to inform ourselves how to direct folks, but then partnering with the municipalities to make sure that's reciprocal. Because in the end, you call a number, we know each other, we call each other all the time for things, so how can we do that warm handoff?
So, and we also take another, more of an alternative view to that, is the no wrong door opportunity. So rather than focus on, it's not my job and it's not our problem, let's focus on getting them to the right spot. So a lot of our services on the website, to everyone's point here, it is just the government. We don't, and they don't care, and they shouldn't have to care. So if they can get to cabarruscounty.us, we want that to be the gateway for them to find that service. So ideally, that's been our goal for several years. Kelly and I partnered on this years ago on the building side to be able to get to that spot where contractors don't have to worry about bouncing back and forth between Kannapolis City, City of Concord, the county, and all these permitting issues. It's a one-stop shop type mentality. So that level of ownership the county employees really do actually have is probably hard to describe or to show on those things. And you as in your time in the legislature, I'm sure you dealt with that just the same. But that level of just, hey, I want to complain about that, and then your constituent services team having to work on that. So we have that same approach here at the county level. So let us help you when you get those complaints. Don't worry about whether it's a city service or not. We'll figure it out.
Just respond to that right quick. In the legislature, my constituent services
I know.
was my wife.
I set you up for that one.
Yeah.
Tammy's the best constituent services person that Raleigh's ever seen, so we knew that.
I like option number 3. It narrows it down to what we can actually address, which helps go towards the municipality versus county. It's probably going to be cheaper if it's shorter. Because it's valuable information that we get back. We were able to use this to kind of gear some things. And typically the demographic that is going to fill that out is the demographic we're going to have a hard time reaching if it's just online, as it is. But if you're looking for feedback, I like option 3. This is the option I like.
Yeah, piggybacking off of what you said, I was looking at this, the responses, a lot of that we don't handle. I guess deciding which direction we want to go on that, and we can think about it. The secret shopper idea. I wouldn't want to be the guy that secret shops the sheriff's department. I can tell you that. I don't want to be that one. I guess we can think about this information, think about how we want to go. If we do go that route, I think it probably would be a good idea to be more geared towards what we can actually accomplish from the county versus just needs in general that we have no influence or no authority to get involved in. So
Great. And the vendor has offered to help us kind of think through what that shorter survey might look at outside of the typical contracting, outside of collecting money for that process. So we can work with them on that and kind of get a draft of something before we sign any contracts. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe we have enough time, we can go ahead and get started on the FY25 budget update. And we have Mitzi Odell, Assistant Finance Director, here with us this evening, and we'll see how long it goes. Hopefully we can get through the presentation and then have dinner. If conversation goes long, then we may just take a break in between, so. But we welcome you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just so everyone's aware, Jim, the Finance Director, is his son's wedding, so this weekend, so we gave him a pass from being here. Pretty important event, so we welcome you, Mitzi. Thank you.
Thank you. I've been with Cabarrus County about 6 months now, so
Okay.
I appreciate everybody, and they've
Well.
been very welcoming and
Great.
all of that.
We're glad to have you.
Thank you. This presentation is just a high-level overview for the general fund for the current fiscal year. Most of the data is from January 31st. Our current budget is $396.2 million, with current revenues of $314.7 million, and our expenses are coming in at $223.5 million. Currently, the revenues are a lot higher due to the taxes coming in and being due in January. 80% of our taxes usually come in between December and January. Five of our major revenue sources are property taxes, sales tax, ambulance fees, register of deeds, and construction standards. I'll start with property taxes. For the current fiscal year, we have a budget of $268.7 million. Our collections as of 12/31 are $258.3 million, and we're estimating a 98.5% collection rate for the current fiscal year, and we're expecting to meet budget. This graph gives us comparison of the taxes collected year over year. As you can see on the graph, we had a reval year in fiscal year 20 to 21. And then this current reval year, for fiscal year 24 collections, we collected $239.5 million, and we're expecting to collect $268 million for this current year. For our sales tax, we have a budget of $74.3 million, with a projection of total collections for 25 of $77 million. This is based on the first 5 months of data collected. Our estimated revenues is going to be $2.7 million over budget, and our growth rate is going to be flat to a slight increase over the last year. We do budget very conservatively with our sales tax. This next slide gives us an information of our year-to-year comparison. We started with fiscal year 20 through 25. For fiscal year 24, we came in at $76.9 million for the sales tax, and our projection this year is going to be $77 million. Our next three revenue sources are the ambulance fees, register of deeds, and the construction standards. Our ambulance fees are budgeted at $8.3 million with a projection of $8.3 million. We've collected $4.8 million currently. Register of deeds is $3.2 million budget. We have collected $2.4 million and a projection of $4.1 million. Construction standards is $5.4 million on a budget. We've collected $3.4 million so far and projection of $5.8 million to be collected. The next slide shows a graph, just a comparison of year over year for these three major categories.
Now, those are the projections, or that's the?
Projection
okay.
collection, yes.
Okay. And so, I know you may not know the answer to this question, but I'm sure someone does in the room, but, so the ambulance fees are coming in less than, okay. Do we know a reason for that?
There's,
Yeah.
there's been quite a bit of change in Medicare and Medicaid reform, and we had several years, as you can see, where they were a little bit lower. Our billing company and ourselves have worked hard on getting all that cleared up, and we're starting to see the rebound, and we expect that rebound to continue. But we had a couple months in the fall when it was low because of complications with reforms and stuff like that. And we just had a meeting first of the week with our billing company, and those are showing definite rebound and coming back up. So we would anticipate that coming back to normal.
Okay. And when you say complications, what are you referring to?
Just changes in healthcare reform and different private contractors taking over some of the Medicare and Medicaid stuff. And it's just been some complicated, I mean, it's just been a lot related to that. And it's not just with us. That's EMSMC, which is our billing vendor, is nationwide. And they're seeing, I mean, it's not just Cabarrus County.
Okay.
Could I ask too?
Sure.
Approximately, like, how much a year do we write off in ambulance fees?
We come before you, or actually finance comes before you, I think in the fall, and it's typically around 1.2 million. That is not for a year. That is after a 4-year period that has went through the process of collections, debt set off and everything, and it's just done to clear the books. It doesn't mean that those calls go away. We can still collect on those, but what we bring before the board, or what finance brings before the board every fall, is to clear the books, and it's typically in the 1.2.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
In summary, property taxes and the ambulance is projected to meet budget this year. Sales tax, registered deeds, and construction standards are all projected to exceed the budget. That's totaling about $4 million. The next section is the high level of 25 expenditures. Our capital purchases, which include vehicles, equipment, and technology, is currently at 73.9% of the budget, which has been spent or encumbered. Last year, we were at 73.6%, so we're right in line. All of our debt transfers to other funds and education expenditures are anticipated to be at budget. Salaries and benefit expenditures are currently at $78.4 million. We're estimating to be $9.9 million under a $151.2 million budget. Most of this is due to lapsed salaries and timing of new hires. In fiscal year 22, 23, and 24, we spent 92%, 90%, and 93% respectively of each budget. This year, we're estimating to be 95% of fiscal year 25.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Any questions from board members? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, so I think we'll go ahead and take a break for the dinner, and we will come back here at 6:45. All right, thank you.